Hello everyone. I am a non-professional housewife, Mrs. Lum. Today, I will introduce to you a travel video. If you want to know when I will upload the latest video, remember to comment, like, subscribe. Hello everyone. Today I want to share the detailed information about my trip to Tateyama Kurobe in April 2024. Firstly, let me introduce the travel companions who went with me to Tateyama Kurobe. My husband and I travel with my parents. Since we were going to visit Takayama, Shirakawa-go, and Tateyama Kurobe, so we decided to rent an 8-seater car in Nagoya City. My friends thought I was being extravagant. There were only 4 of us, but we rented such an expensive car. But in fact, after placing our luggage, the spacious vehicle allowed my parents to travel comfortably. I believe it was necessary. As you can see, we had a lot of luggage. If the cabin was too cramped, my parents would have felt uncomfortable. When traveling with elderly, one shouldn't skimp on expenses. It was the first time for both my husband and I to go to Tateyama Kurobe. So before setting off, we had watched many video introductions. We had originally planned to enter at Tateyama Station and exit at Ogasawa Station. But a friend who had tried this said they found it quite tiring. They suggested that we stay overnight at Marodo Station instead. That way, we could return to Tateyama Station to pick up the car on the second day. This would make the trip more relaxed. After hearing this, I thought it sounded like a good suggestion. So I started searching for hotels in Marodo. In the end, we decided to stay at the Tateyama Hotel located right above Marodo Station. To be honest, the hotel was rather dated. The room rates were high, but the dinner was truly delicious. The hotel offered a service to take us to Ogasawa the next day to see the sunrise. I sincerely felt that we had made the right choice. Since we were going to stay overnight at Marodo Station, we deposited our luggage at the hotel in Takayama around 7:30 in the morning. Then we drove off, stopping at a convenience store for breakfast along the way. We arrived around 10 a.m. When we reached Tateyama Station, we looked for a parking. But the closest one seemed to be full. That parking lot had a gate, and I don't understand Japanese. I wasn't sure if we needed to pay to park there. So we went to another free parking lot instead. We then went to the station to buy our train tickets. The nearest train departure was already at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We had no choice but to have lunch nearby and wander around to kill time. There was a restaurant called Shitaka that was highly recommended online. After lunch, parents went for a leisurely stroll and took photos together, while I had some work matters to attend to. And my husband, the only driver in our group, was feeling fatigued during this trip. So we went to the Coffee and Bed Cafe for some coffee. My husband took a short nap, while I tended to my work matters. Around 12:30 in the afternoon, we gathered at Tateyama Station to take some photos. Then we boarded the Tateyama ropeway. I'd suggest lining up early, and as soon as the car approaches, quickly get on. If you find a seat, take it immediately, as the staff will try to cram as many passengers into the car as possible. The ride to Bijodera Station only took a few minutes. We then immediately boarded the Tateyama Highland bus to Marodo Station. The Tateyama Highland bus ride took around 50 minutes. To remind elderly to use the restroom before the 50-minute bus ride to Marodo Station, as there wouldn't be another restroom until we reached Marodo Station. If you want to enjoy the scenery, I'd recommend sitting on the left side. If you sit on the driver's side, the view is just of snow walls. If you plan to sleep the entire bus ride, it doesn't really matter which side you sit on. Once the bus reached Morodo Station, we went to explore the Snowwall Valley. By the time we finished taking photos and playing in the snow at the Snowwall Valley, the staff were already starting to close it down. We then returned to the Tateyama Hotel to check in. Before it got dark, we went up to the rooftop of the Tateyama Hotel to take some photos. Since there had been fresh snowfall the day before we arrived at Tateyama Kurobe, it was quite difficult to walk around. The new snow was soft and powdery, making every step a struggle as we sank into it. Walking on the snowy ground was extremely tiring and required a lot of effort. But the scenery was absolutely breathtaking. The hotel had a onsen facility, but the quality was just average. However, the dinner was absolutely delicious, especially the fresh and sweet sashimi. After dinner, we went up to the rooftop to gaze at the stars. Unfortunately, with the bright moonlight, we weren't able to see many stars clearly. The hotel had a free stargazing video to watch. The hotel staff also took guests up to the rooftop to stargaze. But since we didn't understand Japanese, we didn't participate. Just going up to the rooftop to look around was enough for us, since we had to wake up around 4 o'clock in the morning to see the sunrise. So after our stargazing, we returned to our room to rest. On the next day, the hotel provided a morning call service. We gathered in the hotel lobby, then took the Tateyama Kurobe Alpine route train to Daikanbo. Even after reaching Daikanbo, we still had to climb many stairs to get to the observation deck. While waiting for the sunrise at Daikanbo, I was grateful I had chosen to stay the night at the Tateyama Hotel. Because if I had just done a day trip, we would have had to depart around 5 o'clock in the morning. Then there would have been a lot of back and forth by bus or train and on foot, which could have exhausted my parents. After all, my parents' health is generally not good. It's better to have a more relaxed and spread out itinerary. Unfortunately, due to the cloudy weather, we were unable to see a clear sunrise. But the scenery was still absolutely breathtaking, like a perfect painting. Then on the return trip, we went back to the Tateyama Hotel. After resting a bit, we went to have the hotel's buffet breakfast. After finishing our meal, we checked out, and then caught the first bus headed towards Kurobadera. We planned to visit the Kurobe Dam. We intended to return to Tateyama Station, retrieve our car and head back to Takayama, since we had already gone to the observation deck to watch the sunrise in the morning. I also did not want to make my parents climb more stairs again. So after reaching Daikanbo, we directly took the train to Kurobadera. Then we took the Kurobe trolley bus down to Kurobe Dam. Since we had stayed overnight, we were able to enjoy the environment without the crowds of day-tripping tourists. We could take our time taking photos. At Kurobe Dam, I encountered the mascot character Kurobe-kun. Finally, we returned to Kurobadera to walk around and take more photos. Then we headed back to Morodo Station. I remember that on the return trip, the Tateyama cable car was already quite crowded. The staff counted the number of people allowed to board and scanned everyone's tickets. The cable car was so packed that the people were squeezed in like sardines. The staff pushed the passengers into the cabin. This ensured that even the last passengers were able to board the cable car. Finally, we arrived back at Morodo Station. We strolled through the Snowwall corridor. After that, we went to Bijodera Station, and then returned to Tateyama Station to pick up our car. We then drove back to our hotel. Takayama 1 in Takayama. After check-in, we soaked in the hot spring to relax. My husband slept in until it was time for the midnight ramen. Takayama 1 is part of the Dormy Inn Hotel Group. One of the signature features of Dormy Inn hotels is midnight ramen. They offer a free ramen bar for 1 hour at night. In summary, the entire itinerary went smoothly. There were a few things to keep in mind, since I stayed overnight at Marodo Station. I had not pre-booked any tickets. I departed from Takayama Station, and the drive took around 2.5 hours. To avoid everyone feeling stressed due to time constraints, I purchased the tickets only after arriving at Tateyama Station. If you would like to choose to stay overnight, you can also predict the arrival time at Tateyama Station. So it's recommended to book the train tickets online in advance. This way, the time scheduling will be better. Do you know why was I so comfortable just buying the train ticket when I got to Tateyama Station? Because even if there are too many people going up to Tateyama, there will still be extra trains running. So I only booked the hotel, and did not pre-book the train tickets. The second thing that needs to be paid attention to is sunglasses. The weather was really nice when we went to Tateyama Kurobe. The sunlight reflecting off the snow can be harsh on the eyes. Without sunglasses, the eyes can become very fatigued. In severe cases it can even lead to snow blindness. Therefore, it is recommended to wear sunglasses. The third point is that if there are too many people, there will be additional trains. However, the only thing guaranteed to have seating is the Tateyama Highland bus. For the other transportation, as long as you are not one of the first in line, you will likely have to stand while riding. You may even have to ride in very crowded conditions. So if elderly find riding multiple modes of transportation to be tiring or difficult, it is recommended that they try to line up earlier to board, and wait for the next train or bus if necessary. Lastly, the scenery is beautiful. Taking my parents to Tateyama Kurobe feels like a personal challenge. And there's a great sense of accomplishment when I see my parents happy. Even though the hotel and sunrise viewing costs are very expensive. Over 10,000 Hong Kong dollars for 4 adults. I think it's worth it as long as everyone can enjoy the experience in a relaxed manner. That's all I wanted to share for today. If you find my sharing helpful, please comment, like, and subscribe. Thank you. If you enjoyed today's short video, please feel free to comment, like and subscribe. Thank you.